All right. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this morning's activities. Don't go anywhere. The afternoon is just as good. And we're going to kick off. We've got David Glantz here from Loyalty Partner Solutions, who has an able panel in Peter Gerstle and James Curry to talk about bundles of benefits. I think we can probably bet Peter wants to talk about paid loyalty, but let's see what we can learn today, because the last time we talked about it, I mean, virtually a year ago, but really 2 years ago, was the last solid conversation on this. So, James, you've certainly had some developments in your quarter since then. And I think that as an industry, a lot has happened in the last 2 years, ignoring the pandemic. It's a topical conversation to have. We've talked about this in a couple of guises, just the topic of paid loyalty. We've talked about how to engage less frequent customers and where does that potentially fit in with that. And really, even the title, bundles of benefits, I know some people are thinking, hang on, bundling, unbundling, this is, maybe not even specific to loyalty, but we've been talking about this for a while in various guises. So let's make it contemporaneous. And David, over to you.
Okay, thank you, David. So have you seen it, David? Giving over to David. So, yes. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself, David Glantz. I'm with Loyalty Partner Solutions. I'm in the industry since nearly 12 years. So coming from another loyalty platform provider, changing to the travel industry, and working now as a loyalty partner with clients like Lufthansa, United, China Southern, German Railway. But this is enough of this marketing pitch, because it's not about me, it's about these two guys here. And it's about the topic of bundles of benefits. And we discussed it a bit back and forth during lunch break. And we would like to handle this topic a bit wider, because let's say bundles of benefits is one part, but the most important part is in how to engage the less frequent flyers, because we've learned today in the first panel from Harald across that this is the major challenge we have right now post-COVID. And let's say the bundling of benefits and the subscription models and the paid loyalty models can help us in this way. So first of all, give us a hand for James and Peter. Maybe James, just start introducing yourself and maybe give us a bit of an insight how you can see this topic we're talking about today.
Sure. Thanks so much, David. For those of you who don't know me, my name is James Curry. I'm with Emirates. I've been with Emirates for quite a long time, 14 years, and a bunch of roles in commercial starting off, and then more recently heading up product and member engagement for the last 5 years with Skylers. Before then it was Air New Zealand. It seems like a very long time ago now. But in terms of this subject, I think the journey for us is quite interesting. It started actually one day in my boss, Dr. Najib's office, talking about qualified acquisition. And we were looking at how do we get more of our first and business class customers into the program. We had at that point about 30% of our first and business class customers, Skylers members, which is a pretty disappointing statistic. So we were looking at, okay, we need to make it easier and more frictionless, because these are our highest value customers, and they make our KPIs look really good in terms of revenue contribution and yield increment versus non-members if they're in the program. And right around that time, interestingly, Amazon Prime was coming into the EU market. This is some point in 2018, and they announced they were coming in. And my boss at the time sort of said, hey, this is something that we should look towards the strength of our brand. Why aren't we doing this? And we sort of went down this pathway of thinking around, hey, this is not really new. The US carriers in particular, the likes of United, had subscriptions, and the lounge subscriptions have been around for decades, in many cases actually predating loyalty programs themselves. So kind of in the regular kind of optimistic vein I tend to do things with, I thought, we'll just do something really easily. We'll run a pilot, we'll go out, we'll pilot 100,000 customers, and we'll try something. It was a little bit more complicated than that, but in the end, in April 2019, we started progressively targeting certain types of customers who we thought would be engaged by a subscription proposition with a flat $300 for bonus miles, and discounted rewards, including bonus status credits. So we felt we needed to do something that we could control. We didn't have to rely too much on other departments. And we positioned this as a way internally as a B2C channel shift driver. So obviously the indirect sales incur higher costs in many measures. So we tried to position this as a little bit of a Trojan horse to get more commercial buy-in to support this by saying, hey, we're going to try and drive some B2C shift, and we'll be accountable to the business case, very margin-driven business case in that regard. And that was a pilot that was quite successful. And then from there, we built a slightly more rigid foundation around subscription, which is what we have today. We'll talk a bit more about it, but very much still for us a foundational level which we look to build on further.
Okay, thank you. Great. Peter, maybe short introduction. Sure. And give us some background about your experience in this area or this topic.
So again, for those who don't know me or have been pestered by me on LinkedIn about paid loyalty, I'm Peter Gerstle. I work at Collinson and heading up their travel product suite that's to do with travel and innovation in travel, and specifically on the business of loyalty. I'm a travel guide through and through. I've worked in the big three: hotel, car hire, and airline. And I've always had commercial roles and kind of product innovation roles. And the focus was always to drive revenue at the end of the day. And that's what we're all here about. I think this morning there was a little bit of a straw poll that indicated ultimately it's all about the money. So I've always had that commercial focus. And more recently, I was looking at loyalty specifically to make loyalty programs more relevant, more responsive to commercial needs, and effectively drive more revenue, not just for the program itself, but to the brand. In an airline case, the airline revenue. I did work amongst my many stints around the industry for Easyjet, heading up their innovation department. At the time, that was the first time they had such a job. And I'm proud to put my name to stuff like speedy boarding, but also charging for hold bags, sorry. But in the context of that, we also introduced Easyjet Plus. Who's an Easyjet Plus member here? Okay, clearly not a low-cost carrier crowd. Anywho, who knows about Easyjet Plus? Oh, there you go. Okay, good enough. Easyjet Plus is the de facto loyalty program of Easyjet. Why? Basically because you pre-purchase effectively, you pre-commit some money towards a benefit or a set of benefits that you get from the airline, and you can only realize that benefit if you continue to have transactional financial loyalty to the airline, i.e. if you fly the airline. So given a choice between a BA flight and an Easyjet flight, if you're an Easyjet Plus member, you always go for the Easyjet flight, even if which is rarely the case, there is a fare premium or something else that schedule is maybe an hour apart or something like that. So that is effectively a loyalty program in anything but word. And that experience, this was now a fair few years ago, powered this belief that there must be something in paid loyalty, specifically this mechanism that can be applied to other airlines, well, to airlines full stop, to FFPs specifically, who traditionally were only earn-based. So that's a long-winded way of saying how I come about this. I do propose we talk about paid loyalty today, because clearly that's why I'm on stage, I guess. But I also propose that we talk a little bit more about, and this was referenced this morning already, this is not about monetizing the low-frequency customer. This is just about making your program more relevant to more people, engaging I think the long tail was mentioned. I think Chuck coined that, or I'd like to think I coined it, but maybe Chuck did, the next 10 or next 10, 15%. You don't need to worry about those who are super loyal anyway. It's those who, what I call latent loyal, who could go either way, who are on the cusp of being super loyal, but also who you could lose. How do you engage them a bit more? That's where paid loyalty comes in. But overall, it's about increasing program relevance, which I think we should talk about today.
Thank you, and this is what I'm trying to do. So building a bridge between the paid loyalty topic and the topic about, let's say, relevance, the new value proposition for the less frequent flying members. And as this is important, we've learned today, and we've learned it from the crisis, maybe we all knew it even before the crisis, because we see our member bases, and you see your member bases, and we've learned it from talks to the airline. Yeah? So they are spreading into different subgroups. Yeah? You still have this road barriers. We've talked about the McKinsey consultants today, flying back and forth. 4 or 5 times a week. But on the other hand, we have a growing segment, and nowadays I think it's the only customers we can rely on, is the visiting family and friends leisure traveler. And at the end, we have the huge number of members who do not fly at the moment, and we are not sure if they will in the past. So the program itself needs to maintain different value propositions for this different member clusters, member bases. And as we've learned this, and as the COVID crisis made this fact more and more obvious to all of us, my question, and this is a question to James, because happy to have you here, and I think Emirates is a good case because they don't have a home market, so they have by default a less frequent traveling member base, and I hope we can learn something now. And we've recently launched this paid membership subscription program, Skywards Plus. So maybe just give us a bit of insight how it worked out and what were the ideas building this additional value proposition, especially targeting the less frequent flyers and less frequent flying members.
Sure. So, building on the pilot, I think the vision was we wanted to have some type of structure, and we looked at the likes of Easyjet Plus as well, that had done very, very well in kind of a leisure and some degree of business flying type of context. So we thought, look, we are a transactional loyalty program today. We have tiers. We want to start taking the best of other worlds as well and bringing it into the program. So naturally, the advantage of a subscription product is that there is upfront high margin revenue, and then you're building in some consumer psychology aspects to drive downstream engagement as well. So we looked at obviously 3 specific types of packages. We looked at specific price points we wanted to work with. We still wanted to have the loyalty program at the centre around an enriched proposition, but we knew that we needed to have certain stages to ensure we had the right type of trader. So in addition to bringing in aspects important to customers like lounge access and additional baggage, we needed to hold back certain propositions such as upgrade rewards to the advanced package and bonus status credits to the premium package. What we envisage is that something would sit between our base tier, which is the blue tier, and then silver, gold, and platinum. What we've found, interestingly, and the pandemic impact has played a part here, is that about 40% of our engagement so far has come from gold members. Okay. So these are customers who see value in being able to bring additional guests into the lounge, for example, who see value in being able to retain their tier status or know that they'll retain their tier status for less, even in an environment where it's actually being extended, which is really interesting. There's also a segment of members out there that just want to be involved in anything that can give them an enriched value proposition just to do with Emirates. So we're very lucky. We have a strong brand and a good product, and particularly in our home market, customers are willing to do that. And sometimes they're willing to actually pay an irrational amount of money to do that. Where I'm most pleased, and I think probably in line with the original genesis of the objective of doing this, is the blue tier. It's about 25% of the overall engagement so far. So these are folks that are flying infrequently, that do see value in this. They're paying $400, $399. They're getting 2 entries to the lounge, plus all the loyalty benefits, which we can sustain quite comfortably. But what we're able to push these guys is to say that, hey, we're offering you something which gives you your investment back after one flight. Okay? And we're still able to sustain that. I think the beauty of the business case in building this, it wasn't a difficult one, working with our finance teams, because we can almost modularize the business case. In terms of our P&L, we structure at a unit cost level all of the benefits. So what that meant is we simply built up the benefits and we applied some pretty solid rationale to what we sort of thought the engagement was. Then we had a top level price point, and you can take a very margin driven approach. So from a business case standpoint, it was relatively simple to do. Where I'm quite interested now to look at this progressing is as the scale and the passenger number starts to come back, as we continue to recover from the pandemic, how the metrics of these individuals stack up. compared to lookalikes who are not Skyward Plus members. So my KPIs have historically been yield premium, average fare, average contribution at a member tier level. Now I can overlay that for Skyward Plus members as well. And what I'm hoping to be able to do, and I'm confident I'll be able to do, is to be able to tell a positive story to business to say that a gold member who's Skyward Plus is performing X% above a regular gold member who otherwise looks the same. And I think that leads into what we talked about here as well, the fundamental basis of that subscription psychology.
Okay.
So at Easyjet Plus, just to, again, not a strict comparison, I'm not here to bang the drum for Easyjet Plus, although please do become a member, it's a great value proposition. So we had the usual KPIs around loyalty, kind of share of wallet, if you want, attitude towards the brand, and advocacy. And Easyjet Plus members all indexed much higher than kind of the baseline Easyjet member, and that's loyalty. And also as a because you mentioned business, this was ironically we'd actually never segmented leisure or business, but it turned out this was basically a business product. So most people who bought Easyjet Plus were business travelers with predictable future travel patterns, who were on the cusp of saying, V8, I've got a choice here, but they opted for Easyjet through the Easyjet Plus proposition.
Well, it triggered in my mind at that point, because I'm a big fan of Easyjet. I flew a lot between Gatwick and Lisbon on Easyjet, and I would always trade up and get the legroom seats at the front, because I'd be happy to go to Pret a Manger, get my sandwich, and I thought that was a great product, and get the speedy boarding as well.
There we go.
So, and I saw that as something that's very attractive for business people. And
I
also,
think
our customers tell us that as well, because they burn their miles and they love it.
Of course, there's a relationship there, And again, this was a number of years ago, and it's still in the market. So that proves that principle is valid, full stop. And we all believe in the impact of loyalty. So we have a great product that delivers on the KPIs. We know it works. We know we need to sustain it. The challenge now is to overlay that for every airline in the world to add a paid program. Not at the expense of their own program, not saying that at all, but to add a pay program to their proposition to increase the relevance of the program to more members. Now, interestingly, your focus in your mind originally was effectively better engagement penetration from your higher tier members, which is not how I would, rationally or emotionally have started. It's interesting that you did. I kind of think a paid loyalty proposition is much more interesting for those who, as I said, those latent loyals, those who are in the cusp, those who you have a little bit of brand engagement, but maybe not enough, and not enough frequency, not enough activity in their own right to gain status. Pitching it there. And I'm curious to see whether over time you might actually introduce a level, if you want, that is more pitch at a lower level in terms of price point as well. Yeah,
it's an interesting point. We're probably certain days you think about top line, other days you think about other things, but it came from a customer acquisition standpoint. Talk about GDPR, talking about using this as kind of a means to get permission to use data, and then we sort of thought it's overlay that subscription. But you're exactly right. I think where we see ourselves is that we have a foundation, we have systems constraints. It's not easy to build on that scale quickly, but the vision that I would have is something that's a lot more personalised in the future. So you go to Emirates.com and you go to the second navigation and you see Skywards Plus today. I would envisage that would become subscriptions in Skywards Plus. Skywards Plus is there as kind of a baseline subscription proposition, but Peter, you're a UK-based silver member. There is a subscription proposition which is available for you right now, and maybe it's only available for 7 days, or maybe it's always available. I look at the nature of our business, and we're operating, in a pre-pandemic environment to 80 different countries, or accepting fares in 80 plus different currencies. So what someone pays for a business class ticket out of India is very different to someone out of the UAE, right? That's the yield model. So what we need to do is we need to look at different types of price points and propositions in at least our top 5 markets as a priority.
And this is interesting because we've talked about subscriptions as a bundle, but I would like to turn it around, because have you thought in the process of building Skywards Plus about unbundling it, so making the single benefits, let's say, payable a la carte?
Definitely at a very targeted level, for sure. I mean, it's so exciting because the possibilities are endless. You can just about offer any degree of combinations to any specific type of customer and try all different sorts of things. I mean, one of the things I'd love to try with Skywars Plus would be a free fare, or you could kind of shoehorn in a Kugo code or promotional code, 100% discount, just to try something. And these are the sort of things that I'd like to explore. In a way, the pandemic has helped us to push stuff through which might have been more challenging to push through otherwise. But there is all sorts of things that we can do. In terms of a la carte, I mean, subscriptions is one point, but I think the vision has to be that you have very personalised propositions for certain types of customers. So if you look at someone that's got high potential lifetime value, so you look at someone that could be your McKinsey example in 5 years' time, or someone who's working their way. So look at someone who think, okay, there's a 80% chance this guy's going to be platinum in 5 years. Well, let's get him on that road a little bit faster. What can we offer him? Again, this brings in the conversation earlier about data and using machine learning to try and enrich these offerings and make them more personal. But even away from actually asking someone to pay for something, we want to use these rails to actually get to a stage where you look at the Skywars program, you have blue, silver, gold, platinum. Though it's kind of published and there's some sort of foundation there, but I want to be very, very personal with people specifically based on their position within their lifestyle. I think that's probably where we all aspire to get to. I don't think that the skill necessarily is in coming up with these strategies. I think the skill is in actually having the systems to enable it and persuading and influencing internally to get the investment to make some of this stuff happen. But I think that's where we all look to aspire to get to.
Thank you. So as a system provider, I have to say you're speaking out of my heart, because this is exactly what we are thinking about, the idea of individualization of the program itself, in order to, let's say, monetize the particular single customer with a personalized proposition at the maximum possible. Okay, very good. So we talked quite a while on the subscription and paid loyalty topic, but let's say the idea is to monetize, or I like it more to say to engage the less frequent customer bit more, and especially in these times after the crisis. So maybe we should start thinking, coming from this paid loyalty subscription model, what else can help us to, let's say, to treat this or to engage this different member bases or member groups differently, especially post COVID? I know from Emirates that you have a great cash and miles proposition, and let's go a bit in this and how this is working out at the moment post pandemic.
Cash Plus Miles is probably, I think aside from launching the program 20 years ago, Cash Plus Miles was the biggest game changer for Skywars, because we monetized the currency, we made it available on every fare. It meant that, and it kind of suits our customer base as well. The very, very long tail of Emirates customers fly once or twice a year or once or twice every 2 years. They earn 5,000 or less miles. We need a way for them to get value out of that, and for that to be positioned as credit. And that's exactly what Cash Plus Miles is. We've had no redemption, very little redemption for an extended period of time. We obviously had a grounding of all of our passenger fleet for 2 months, but people were earning like you wouldn't believe through the partners, and I'm sure that's the same, I know that's the same for all of us practitioners out there. So there's a lot of pent-up miles, and then as things are starting to recover, Cash Plus Miles has been a powerful lever. We've done a lot of promotions around it. Right now, it's about 10% of our Emirates.com sales mix is a Cash Plus Miles transaction, so 1 in 10. So people are using that as credit, and that helps us. It removes some of the price drivers from competitors. It helps customers understand that, okay, there's some value here, and I can use that. Now, what I would say that I want to get better at, I think we can get better at from a Skywars standpoint, is probably showing that customer what that value equates to. We've had a couple of campaigns in the last 6 months where we've managed to explicitly show someone that their miles balance equates to $50 off the next Emirates fare, and that's been successful. but it's difficult for us a little bit to be able to do that at scale and regularly. And these are things that we're working on. But I think that's a really important trigger point in our relationship with the customer, just to say, hey, if you're thinking about flying, why would you? The importance of member acquisition, giving them permission to store their data, use that data, showing them that, okay, from this flight, you're getting some credit off your next flight, and position that the right way is very powerful as well. So, I think I've answered your question, but cash plus miles, it's an absolute cornerstone of our redemption proposition. In terms of the overall miles redeemed, it doesn't factor at a high percentage level, but in terms of transactions, it's very high. It's over 60% of our new transactions.
And I think that points to this, the nature of a program. A program is only as good as there is activity in the program. And giving more options to earn, again, I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about long tail in the course of this chat, but also giving more options to redeem, and at smaller increments, for example, is really important. And that actually engages the lower frequency, and we talk about frequency. Frequency, when we talk about frequency, is just about flying, but that's not, again, we shouldn't limit ourselves to that. Lower frequency means lower engagement. They're not active enough. They're not incentivized to be active with partners to earn in order to burn, and if the burning amount is so big that they can never have a hope of getting there, they're going to stop earning. So there's going to be a balance between earn and burn. And having an outlet, a kind of a low-cost outlet, if you want, in terms of redemption, is super important. And let's not forget, because I'm sure we might come to that at some point. I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder here, but sustainability, climate change, COP26, and all that. Loads programs bad, not true at all. Loads programs can play a super important role in actually supporting the sustainability message for airlines, I think. On the earn side, again, it's not just about earning through flying. It's about earning everywhere else. That's actually a good climate message in a way. In terms of burning, I still think that flight redemptions need to be at the forefront of why a program exists in an airline, because I think the flight redemption is like, these are the gold bars in the central bank of the currency. That underpins the value of a program, the currency of a program, flight redemptions. If you take that away, your program's, it's just a supermarket program at the end of the day. So we need to be that. But on the redemption side, you can be clever with your redemptions, far more clever than most airlines are today in terms of how you fill your redemption seats. You can use redemptions cleverly to make sure that every flight is at capacity, which means a full flight is more climate effective than a half-empty flight. So there's lots of things that a loyalty program can do in that topic of sustainability.
And I fully support this topic, and it's not scripted, and we haven't discussed it before, but we as LPS recently, launched a new product and service to combine loyalty and sustainability in this area.
I don't know that.
But thank you for telling. But coming back to the storyline. So we've talked a bit about the long tail, and we've talked a bit about engaging the customer. So putting your Collinson hat on, you oversee many more airlines than just Emirates. So give us an impression. So what are your, feelings? What's happening outside, and how the different airlines are, tackling this issue to engage the non-flying part of the member base?
Well, again, it's been mentioned many times, so I don't think this is a trade secret at all. It is about widening your partner network, just allowing your currency to play a role, your brand to play a role in everyday life. I know it sounds like almost like I feel ashamed of saying it because it's so obvious, and you guys know all this. But saying it is one thing, executing it is another. Having the right partners who have the loyalty commerce expertise to have great shops out there, online shops, taking this into offline as well. That could be through card linking, that could be through other mechanisms where you can actually use your currency, the utility of your currency at a shop. There are tools out there to doing that. All of that means that the loyalty program itself is relevant in customers' everyday life. It stays top of mind. There's a link with the co-brand there as well. That means, if you're incentivized to use a co-brand, maybe even for some sort of a booster program, subscription-based maybe, could be. That co-brand stays top of wallet. All that means is from a P&L perspective, your currency has a high valuation with your partner, so you can charge a few fractions of a cent more per mile, potentially, if it's a high utility. And it's more valuable to the customer, and ultimately everybody wins. So loyalty commerce is one area. There are other things as well, in the partner realm. Having actually, working actually with the airports and with airport services to improve areas where the airline actually doesn't yet fully control the journey. Airside, it's very much the airline with the lounge, etc. But actually, even airside, there might be things that the airport does where an airline can get in terms of food delivered to gate or the duty free. I mean, there's a whole world out there where duty free isn't fully explored yet. So there's lots of angles that we all know they're on the shelf, but integrating them, setting them up in an appropriate way, setting them up in a way that the customer understands, setting them up through digital channels that are accessible at the point of decision of going, do I buy this through an airline branded retail channel, or do I go direct to the retailer? The customer needs to be educated to use the program channels to engage with the program. And then again, as I said, everybody wins. That's the perspective we're taking, that's the philosophy we're taking for everything we do.
Thank you. It's a good point, because we're discussing back and forth about value proposition, and you mentioned retailer, and I have, petrol station, for example, in mind, yeah. And for sure, it's creating transaction, it's creating everyday transaction. But on the other hand, it's a bit far away from the value proposition of a travel program. So, and the second, let's say, thing I have in mind as a global member base, as a global program, you need to have can only concentrate on the global partners. So maybe let's dig a bit in this area. So question to James, because I know that you are working on this with the Skywards Everyday proposition. How you handle this issue?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The lifestyle relevance, the ability to earn on everyday transactions. Every time someone earns even 5 miles on a coffee, they're engaging with it. The airline is taking a piece of that transaction. That's the power of this. I truly believe that even at a global level, as a global airline, we have key markets. We need to be looking at a market-specific level for relevance. We've started with Skywards Every Day in our home market, and it's a good platform. It's been a little bit curtailed by COVID, by nature of the fact that even our capability today requires handling a handset. So the world in terms of the consumer mindset has completely changed in a period of 2 years. So the card link we talked about, absolutely critical. I think airline loyalty programs working with fintechs and being at the frontier of that technology to really make this happen and make it seamless. I look to the Far East. I look at what Arabia is doing, really with super app, lifestyle super app, with the conglomerate brand, but the airline at the centre of that proposition. The airline's a loss-making entity, but it's the aspiration of the travel reward that drives the engagement with that. And that includes financial insurance as well, right? And there's all sorts of efficiencies with reduced merchant fees and all sorts of stuff as well, which is super interesting. Even what Cathay's doing appears to be that they're heading in that direction as well. So I watch that with interest. My view is that this is kind of the future of airline distribution. Quite candid about that internally at Emirates at times. But I think it's a huge untapped opportunity. NDC is talked about a lot in the commercial realm. It's very important. It's commercial business. Indirect sales is important. But the distribution through issuing your own currency out in the customer lifestyle is a huge opportunity, which I would say within the airline industry today is not really looked at with the same degree of focus that it probably should be.
Okay. Let's not forget, an airline program can become, and probably is de facto, a global coalition program. So coalition programs are strong in domestic markets, but they rarely transcend borders. An airline program allows you to do that. And again, James mentioned it again, the attractiveness of an airline program and the reward side, the fly, that is still one of the most aspirational things that is out there. That's why banks still are keen on piling on travel sector benefits onto their credit card propositions. That's why Party Pass, owned by Collinson, is so successful. Travel remains, and post-COVID ever more so, I hope, the most aspirational thing that you can offer in the context of a reward. That means, with that move of moving to lifestyle and everyday, Cathay, AirAsia, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's probably a bit out there. Not many airlines can kind of go that far as AirAsia can, but including Emirates Everyday, of course. That's the way loyalty programs will go. Not every loyalty program has the ability or even the right to go there, but certainly every program will move towards a more relevance in everyday life of the customer, for certain.
Okay.
And just, sorry, one last thing, because I disagreed when you said, well, you can only do that in certain markets. Well, that's again why an airline doesn't have to do these partner things by themselves. That's where the likes of Collinson and other such companies are available, come in to help an airline multiply their relationship, to basically come ready with a partner ecosystem just to plug in effectively.
So this was exactly my next question. If you're looking to the Skywards program as, let's say, as with your Collinson hat on, how would you say you can support and work together with Skywards to, let's say, achieve the goal we have as our topic, to engage the non-frequent transacting member?
Well, we are already working together, so that's good. When all we can do is even work more together. The one thing I would say, and again, I really love you for having launched Skywards Plus and putting it out there into the public domain, that paid loyalty in a significant and frequent flyer program has its place. That helps my conversations with airlines that I'm having for kind of our version of the product. And our version of the product is deliberately pitched at a lower level. Forgive me for the use of the word lower, but a lower tier level, let's put it that way. There are so many people, as I said, who are on the cusp of either losing elite status, have lost elite status, for whatever reason. We call them ex-elites. They tasted the good life once, but for whatever reason no longer can. So giving them, as a reward for their past loyalty, access to a set of benefits for a fee that mimic that loyalty status experience, I think is a perfectly acceptable thing. But that doesn't necessarily cannibalize, if done well, the earn-based program. This thing about ex-elites, all of you guys running FFPs will have loads of them, because you can only extend your status for so long. That will come to an end. There will be a status cliff. The question is, what do you do with all these people? There will be what I like to call a downgrade gap. And at the moment, very few airlines, none actually, even Skywards Plus today isn't probably the right tool. There's no safety, there's no net. There's nothing other than, sorry, you lost your status, please fly with us or transact with us again more in the future. No airline that I'm aware of has actually something published in the public domain that you can say, you know what, you lost status, but we've got this little package here that is almost the same thing, and we're giving it to you for a great discount. And this is kind of a question about how Collinson can help. This is exactly the kind of the ready-made turnkey proposition that we have, powered by assets that we have, powered by assets that we work with the airline to bring together, put into a package, and have great commercials around it.
Well, this is interesting because I think, and see it from a personal view, having all my statuses prolonged, but at the moment I see I will never ever manage to keep them somehow. So if there will be something in the market, it would be for me as a former frequent flyer and ex-status member interesting in so many programs. So thank you. So we've touched a bit. We've talked a lot about the earn side, and we touched a bit the burn side on the program. If we're talking about our topic, how to monetize and how to engage the members in a more attractive, more relevant way, do you think that the carrot on the stick with the travel-related rewards is still relevant, or do the programs have to change something in this area as well to engage the less frequent flying, transacting members? Because they are coming from the, let's say, if they're coming from the non-air side, is the travel reward still aspirational?
I can answer at the start.
Yeah.
I mean, I unequivocally believe that it is much more that we can do on the airline ecosystem side of things. One of the things that I wouldn't say it keeps me awake at night, but one of the things I still think is a kind of disappointment is probably a bit of a stronger word, but we haven't got to a stage yet where I can offer a Skywars member to use his Skywars miles on anything he can purchase from any Emirates storefront. Not just Emirates.com, but if he's in Bangalore at the Emirates service desk, he should be able to use his miles for anything. And that's where we need to start leveraging technology to get to. And I think, the airline products are aspirational enough to enable that and to bring all of that value that's we have in the lifestyle back to the airline company without necessarily having to rely on partner reward payout. Lifestyle rewards are important, but the way I see the world and the opportunity, certainly from an Emirates standpoint, is that there's still a lot more that we can do. I mean, I have a business case which we've had since 2018 around the ability to use cashless miles on ancillary products through manager booking or through Impact. Because of priorities and important priorities and bigger things such as certain alternate payments and working with IATA Pay, etc. These types of initiatives work their way down the list, and we still don't enable them. So I know a customer expects that I can use cashless miles on my ticket, but if I want to buy my seat, that should be part of the whole basket. But it's not. So if you're building an airline proposition or a new airline, for example, from the ground up in terms of sales and distribution, issuing your own currency absolutely enable that. So there's a lot more that airlines can do to focus that reward demand back to the parent company, which always comes with their margin.
And what is blocking to implement these ideas? Money or legacy systems?
It's a mixture of lots of things, but it comes down to investing in it's limited resources, it's limited IT resources, even more so than ever in the environment we're in today. For us, like many impact with 30% now is documented. So you just work with what you've got. But yeah, we just don't have unlimited resources to manage this. And airlines are complex companies. There's 70 plus departments all vying for limited resources. So you make the best of what you can. We're lucky in loyalty. We have a very margin-driven business case for most of the things that we do, which presents well. But there's also broader, more important enterprise driven initiatives as well, which naturally will take precedence, and you have to find a way to get in order and persuade and influence as best you can.
Like, for example, the new premium economy product.
Well, this is it. This is a classic example. So, and this is super exciting. The premium economy for us, it's currently on latest 4 A380 deliveries, and is going to be retrofitted to 105 777s and A380s also. But this is a huge undertaking, adding a fourth cabin for an airline like Emirates with our systems. Loyalty is an important part of that as well, and a lot of our effort is going in ensuring that the loyalty proposition that I consider to be absolute minimum viable proposition for on-sale and operating first day operation is actually there, and a lot of our resources are focused on that. So there's other things like enabling your currency for ancillary products, which we know is important, it just finds its way down to.
Okay. If we are looking 5 years further, and if we are having this discussion today in our minds, and this topic how to engage the long tail, and this topic about subscription and paid loyalty, what do you both see as future trends and developments in our industry?
So, for one, I hope that in 5 years' time, I wouldn't have to be sitting on this stage, trying to extol the virtues of paid loyalty, because it'll just be loyalty. It's just one way of doing loyalty. So, I know this is going to be the case. I'm pretty certain that in 5 years' time, a loyalty program that doesn't have a paid option or let's call it a paid access option, there won't be a loyalty program around without one. I'm pretty certain. I think we will probably see some gasp of air consolidation in loyalty program brands. I think there will be the big brands who will become de facto global coalition programs with a focus on travel, but you might actually, as a partner, take in other airlines' activity into not Emirates, but kind of the big airlines of this world and the ones who do loyalty well. So I think there will be a degree of consolidation happening outside of just natural airline consolidation.
Okay, thank you. And your view?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that there is definitely more subscription products out there in the market. And yeah, I mean, for me, it's exciting when we see programs doing different things in a bargain ways. I think what we'll start to see is credit towards tier status through everyday spend and engagement. The announcement of AA Advantage was talked about. I think that's definitely going to be a trend, and it's a rightful trend, very important, because this is still value that's coming back to the company. And I also hope that there is more of a recognition that that partnership, or that lifestyle partnership network, is really a sales channel for the airline, and it's not just any sales channel; it's a high margin sales channel. So it's about the shift in legacy thinking. It's also about further progression towards standalone P&Ls and accountability for loyalty programs, where you have a relationship with finance in terms of the program economics, but you don't need to worry so much about revenue optimization. You might be concerned about perceptions around yield because you have a KPI which is all around your retention and your margin, and as long as you hit that, then everyone's happy. So further autonomy, more focus on the lifestyle partners as a channel. I think we'll start to see that, and I think that'll be very welcome to everyone in this room.
Okay, thank you, James.
I just want to, for fear of thinking that the partners are just the cash cows that just fund more and more of the program, I think that's not the case. I think it goes both ways, because there's benefit to the partners as well of working with a strong brand like Emirates. And in this more and more challenging world of communication, of non-cookie based data collection, etc. A strong loyalty program is the greatest data collection device there is. And again, I think loyalty program managers such as yourselves see the benefit of also working with partners to help their financial ends as well.
I really agree with that. I mean, I think the technology companies that are enabling small independent organizations like a coffee shop that's on the corner, which you love, rather than going to Starbucks, though nothing wrong with Starbucks. If someone could earn Skyward miles through that type of transaction, that's really powerful. And there may be, I think, a gravitation away from independent loyalty programs and someone having 40 cards in his wallet or a bunch of different apps to actually the enablers that can channel the loyalty propositions of small independent organizations or even large organizations to the big airline and hotel programs, which are truly aspirational.
Great, thank you. So, question about time. Do we have time to open for Q&A for the audience?
Oh, well, probably. Maybe we might be able to squeeze one or two in, but just quickly, Peter, I want to, last time we talked about this, one of the things I put to at the time was, maybe paid loyalty isn't, I won't say it's the wrong term, but it's an interesting term because people interpret different ways, and some people have the view of, and I've always sort of said, we need to be careful when we talk about it because we're just talking about a subscription or a membership. And subscriptions and memberships aren't new, and we need to make sure that we're not just suddenly relabeling or buzzwording something that would traditionally be called a subscription or membership and buzzwording it as paid loyalty. Because I think there's a difference. I think what we're talking about today, and it's been great to have you guys go into detail, I think really what we're talking about today is there is room in a program to augment it with a paid component of some description. It's not a replacement. And we're not talking about a subscription program, let's use the buzz term, a subscription program like Amazon Prime and calling that paid loyalty, because it's not. And Amazon Prime is not a loyalty program. It is a subscription program which generates and sustains brand loyalty. I think there's a distinction and a difference, and it's important as program managers, I think, to be careful about the way we talk about this. But one of the things you guys have really harped on about today is the importance of the travel aspiration reward. Is there anyone in this room that disagrees with that?
If so, probably you're on the wrong conference.
Yeah, I was going to say probably the finance conference was yesterday. But the reward proposition is what drives consumer behavior. It is as simple as that, and we know how powerful that can be in travel loyalty. One of the concerns we have, and I know we talk a lot about the status earning now, on everyday earn, but traditionally programs have had two programs. There's been the earn and earn program, and there's been the status program. The status program is designed for the people who are actually flying bums in seats. I know that we had some discussion in the lunch break with some folks, about this concept of earning status on the ground is still touchy with people. There's pushback because the idea is status benefits are exclusive for people who are actually flying. So therefore, status earnings should be exclusive from actually flying. And I know we're now separating those conversations. But the earn and burn has come under a lot of criticism over the recent past for devaluations. And at some point, the question has always been, at some point, programs devalue too far, that the aspirational reward now becomes less relevant for the people who actually aren't already just spending that much and achieving it anyway, and it becomes a diluted marketing cost. Do you see paid loyalty solutions as being a fix for that? I know you used the example of status downgraders, as potentially this could be an avenue for that. But what about for the folks that are not in the UK, Canada, or Australia, who don't have the everyday earn options to be in the ecosystem, but where the earn has been, the earn velocity has been devalued so much now that they're just like, I just can't be bothered. I mean, you mentioned, James, some statistics over how many of your premium travellers are actually Skywards members, and that's disturbingly low.
At a PAX, there's not a revenue level, but over PAX.
Okay, so, but I think everybody in the room, we know we have some segments where we're embarrassed about how low the penetration of the membership base is. How do we see paid loyalty fitting in with helping to solve that problem? Because we know we don't want to devalue our programs. We know we can't restore value to our programs to take it back to how it was. It's just not going to happen. How can this be a solution?
It's like 15 questions.
I know. I'm giving you a lot of angles to go with. Don't say I don't help you.
More brain power as well. So the first assertion is that Amazon Prime isn't a paid loyalty program. Don't get hung up on subscription or loyalty. It's about the effect, the impact that the scheme has on the relationship of the customer with the brand. And Amazon Prime is absolutely a loyalty program. Amazon Prime is exactly the same as Easyjet Plus, by the way. You pre-purchase access to certain benefits, but you can really only materially realize that value if you continue to transact. Amazon Prime is useless if you stop buying from them. Amazon Prime is useless if you don't switch on your television. So you buy something, you pay $150 up front, but on the premise that you continue to have transactional financial loyalty with that particular brand. Paid loyalty. Say with Easyjet Plus, that same mechanism, whether you call it paid loyalty or other, is an angle that can be added to an airline loyalty program. Absolutely. I think that's, again, I don't dispute that. And I hope you guys now are with me that that's non-disputable. That's the first question. As to the second question, status. Well, yes, absolutely. We will see. I think American has been, brave or stupid, we'll see. Time will tell. But I think this is where things will go, that yes, you do not earn status uniquely by flying. Again, that's where the climate thing comes in as well, by the way, as I mentioned earlier. So yes, activity with the loyalty program will give you more than just a currency. It will give you status. I'm pretty sure that's a lot of airlines will follow that. This thing about, well, airlines have steadfast only given status to people who fly rather than partner. That's because probably they didn't fully understand the economics of their program, the value that the partner ecosystem brings versus the margin and the yield that a flying passenger
and the behavioral motivation of status.
Absolutely.
That can be commercialized.
Absolutely. So, answer to the third question. Answer to the fourth question, downgraders. At the moment in this world where, apart from American, and this is just fresh, there is no other way of getting status than just flying a lot. Paid loyalty is the perfect immediate solution to help those who have demonstrated past loyalty because they've been status members for a while, and for whatever personal or business reasons cannot have that much. It's not even frequency; it's spend. Most programs are spend based. They're flying just as much, but on lower fares, but they don't max days because they're flying cheaper fares. Those people would probably buy into a proposition that gives you some of that good stuff for a fee. So absolutely, that is, again, why you guys haven't contacted me 2 or 3 years ago already to buy this off, bite my hand off to buy this, I do not know. But this will happen. This has to happen because otherwise you'll have a massive disenfranchised customers who want to be part of your brand, who want to fly with you, but say, what, I don't really care. I'm just chasing out the cheapest fare.
Quite an interesting angle. Just building on that is the status one. So we've already even just talking anecdotally to the odd customer, gold and platinum. they say, well, I can spend $1,000 on this. That's kind of an average economy class fare across the Emirates network pre-pandemic. But hey, it saves me the hassle of having to fly, plus I can get more guests into the lounge with me. It works really well for me. And that, but it's kind of interesting, and I'm most interested in that because it means that we can get that top line revenue into the business without the cost of carriage. So everyone says, status runs are great, but depending on the route, sometimes that could be break even, sometimes worse.
And sometimes revenue management doesn't get it right.
Correct.
And again, the notion of status run, that's the point where a loyalty program or airline is vulnerable. We need to get away from entertaining that notion of status run.
Yeah, flying for the sake of it.
Yeah.
It's quite tough.
And just in terms of the devaluation, the devaluation of the earn side, here's a question to both of you. How do you see paid loyalty fitting in with solving that problem? Because that's a relevance problem. That goes to your comment earlier about relevance. Status people is easy because they've shown the propensity to be very, very loyal and give you a large share of wallet. But for your people who are, we call them lower level, less frequent, however you want to describe them, for them the earn and burn program has been the main motivator. At a point where it's not motivating enough anymore, how do we see that this may be a solution that fits in the mix?
Well, again, it depends on how you structure your paid loyalty program. Every airline will have different needs, but I would say one of the benefits of a pay proposition would be actually an earning booster. So actually, you're incentivizing earning, again, not just through partners as well, by the way, not through flying. That's really important. Why airlines do not give accelerated earn on partner spend, or most airlines don't, is beyond me. That's our questions, too many questions. Devaluation, well, the devaluation itself, I'll throw over to James, because that's really an airline question to...
But just before you throw it over, maybe you just answered it. So let me throw it back to a different way. Have we reached the tipping point where, you know what, you earn jack all miles now, or points, or whatever your currency is, from flying, let's just accept that, let's move on, and for airline frequent flyer programs that haven't embraced a larger ecosystem of earning on the ground, they're going to be left behind because people give up on them because they're no longer relevant. But for the programs that have that larger ecosystem where you can have a meaningful earn velocity, it's just not necessarily from bum in seat, we're getting away from the fact that, well, maybe this begs the question of, are we getting away from the fact that bums in seat flying is actually the desired behavior we're looking for?
But again, you can have that, a pay proposition can serve both case studies if you want. For those with a poor ecosystem that really rely on flying, paid loyalty is just about access to quicker access, immediate gratification, etc., to a better experience for the airport with the airline. So effectively, you're paying for status. Okay. Mimic, not match, mantra, I shouldn't sell your status outright. For those with a rich partner ecosystem, where you have an earning accelerator as part of your pay proposition, that just reinforces the value of the program, that just reinforces the value of the ecosystem and engagement with the ecosystem, and it reinforces the value of the overall program. Again, on the devaluation side, on the redemption, that's really an airline economics challenge. But I think once the program itself and the program economics are so well understood, I don't think devaluation is really top of mind for most CFOs, especially if the loyalty business, as in your case, owns the P&L. Not required.
Yeah, it draws a line under the discussion about devaluation, actually. And in some cases, the subscription can fund aspects of the program that may otherwise have needed to be devalued to enable sustainability. If I look at Skywars Plus, for example, getting 20% earn on Emirates, and by the way, the bum on the seat is 100% the most important focus. Everything circles back to that, including obviously all the lifestyle earning, etc. But for us, it's that 20% bonus on the flying, and also the 20% discount on the upgrade on the other side. That's a pretty strong value proposition when you look at that in totality. So what it does is it means that, hey, someone can pay something, even as little as $400, which is less than the average fare on our network, annually to get a decent value proposition, probably a lot richer than probably maybe we even offered a decade ago, because there have been gradual changes. But at the same time, you're bringing in different redemption options, things like cashless miles, which open up access at the same time.
Fantastic, thank you guys. But I think just to finish off, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I just want to underscore the point, when we're talking about that puts a line under devaluation, we're really talking about the earn side of that, which is where my question was. ultimately, if an airline devalues the redemption side too much, where there's no longer an aspirational redemption that people think is actually psychologically achievable, everything falls off the cliff at that point. As some of the US airlines found a couple of years ago, where they fell short of projections because they realized that they pushed up against a wall a little bit too much. So it's an interesting topic. Obviously, we're not giving anyone a green light for devaluations. I think it really underscores, though, that there are multiple mechanisms that you can deploy within your program that may even get the finance monkey off the back a little bit to take some pressure off from that angle. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Hopefully everybody found that entertaining and valuable. Obviously, Peter would love you to talk to him later if you're interested about a partner agency for paid loyalty solutions, but besides that, he'll happily just talk to you for free of charge anyway about this. We're going to have a quick coffee break, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to be back in about 20 minutes. David, brilliant moderation. Thank you so much. Our next panel is an awesome one. Andreas has a partnership panel with a lot of fantastic guests. So please, at 3 o'clock sharp, let's be back. Go enjoy your coffee and bathroom breaks, and we'll see you soon.